Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. Your girl is a hot mess this morning. Hey, there I am. You ever just have one of those mornings where nothing quite goes right? This was not the shirt I was going to be wearing this morning. But not a big deal. Just, sometimes just things happen. And so I'm running a little bit late this morning, and that is okay. And this is one of the reasons why I say around 7-ish, because sometimes things just don't go as planned. Good morning, Miss Kayla. Okay, so if you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, and am I blurry today? I feel like I'm blurry today. In any case, I'm a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, a jazzerciser, a runner, studying for my Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. And I started Wellness Wednesday because I still feel like I'm blurry. Sorry, guys. I started Wellness Wednesday because I have been in a lifelong journey with anxiety and depression. And as such, I have learned a lot. And I have also learned that sharing with others and learning tips and tricks from others, kind of like peer support, peer wisdom, is really, really helpful. So a lot of times if we talk about things with others, first of all, others who feel kind of like we do or have experienced something similar, nobody's experiences are exactly the same, but that helps us to know that we're not alone on our journey. And then further, thank you, Miss Kayla. Maybe I just need my glasses this morning. And at the same time, we can learn from each other. Not everything works for everybody, but we don't know that there's other options out there if we're not talking to each other. So helping to not feel so alone in our journeys, and then learning from each other is huge. And that's mostly why I started Wellness Wednesday. That said, please feel free to make comments, ask questions, whatever. As we talk, we just try to keep politics out of it, as always, because there's enough of that going on everywhere else for everybody, right? If you have been following me for a while, you know that last week I talked about supporting others through hard things. There's been a lot of loss in my community. There's a lot of people that are struggling, that are mourning. And it was a very, very salient topic last week. And then the challenge last week, if you did it, was to ask yourself, who helped me during a hard time and why did it matter? And then to take that and reach out to someone else, or take that concept rather, not maybe that exact thing, and reach out to someone else going through a tough time so that they would know that they are not alone. So if you did that, let me know how that turned out for you. Drop it in the comments, send me a message if you're not comfortable sharing it publicly. And I hope if you did that challenge, you found it helpful. So, you guys can tell I'm rattled this morning. I can tell I'm rattled this morning. So here's the thing. This week, we're going to lighten it up a little bit. Last week was kind of a heavy topic. This week, we're going to lighten it up because it is the last week of school where I am. I don't know where you are. You can drop that in the comments just so I have an idea. I know up north, school lets out a little bit later than down here. But here in North Central Florida, this is the last week of school. Like, they have a full day today, 2 half days tomorrow, and they're done. And kids are excited. They're excited. They're overstimulated. They're emotional. They're tired and bouncing off the walls. And parents and teachers are fried. I have the word friend there. Wow. Where was my brain when I did this? Parents and teachers are fried. And even with no kids at home, summer still makes us want to slow down and breathe differently and just get outside and reset. Am I right? I don't know. Again, let me know. Drop a comment, raise a hand, whatever, if you feel that. So why does this happen? Why is summer such a big deal? Well, transitions affect us. And even when they're positive ones and the end of the school year comes, they still affect us. For kids, the summer break is exciting. For parents, sometimes it's a mixed bag, right? Some parents, they work for the school system or they have jobs that allow them to take the summer off. So it's a kind of a break and a breather for them. And for other parents, it's extra stuff they have to worry about, keeping kids busy, keeping them entertained, so on and so forth, etc. But no matter how you cut it, transitions affect us because they come with changes to schedules and changes to routine and sleep patterns and structure and expectations. There's a lot that comes with a transition in general. Which is also relatable to last week's topic, because when you lose a loved one, there's a lot of transitions there too, and things change a lot. So in this case, in relation to summer starting, kids may be emotional, they may be extra hyper, clingy, cranky, emotional. Pick one. You can kind of fill in the blank here. Exhausted, and they get bored quickly. But adults do too, y'all. We do too. We are overstimulated. We are drained. We are trying to juggle normal things plus maybe new things as summer comes into play, especially if we have kids or grandkids, and we feel the pressure to make summer magical. I know I still feel that. I don't have kids at home. I have grandkids, and I see them more during the summer, which I love, but I still feel something different about summer, and I often get disappointed when summer doesn't look like what my brain wants it to, right? My brain wants summer to look like a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of a breather, take it easy. Y'all, grad school knows no seasons. That's it. Grad school, remote work, none of those things know seasons. So even without kids at home, I'm trying to juggle too. But we feel this pressure to make summer magical. And then we have to remember that summer isn't just for kids. Summer reminds me, and tell me if you identify with this, summer makes me think of freedom, and this is looking at it kind of from a kid's perspective, right? Summer still makes me think of freedom and never-ending recess and a slower pace and staying up later and playing outside and going on vacation, which means our brains still associate summer with these things and with rest and recovery. So it may look a little different for us adults, but that doesn't mean we still don't need it. I don't know about you all, but when the pool's ready, I will be out there a couple times a week, just floating around. It's not something I'm doing in the winter. So it's something I look forward to when the season changes and it gets warmer. Yes, I live in Florida. It's been a weird winter, y'all. So the pool is just not ready. So what actually helps with summer? What actually helps with these transitions? Well, regardless of what our situation is, whether we have kids at home, grandkids that we see regularly, no kids at all, or for the kids themselves, what actually helps is that structure still matters. It absolutely still matters. And that's part of my problem this morning, is that my routine's a little jacked up because I've been a little off routine. So structure still matters because we all thrive on some sort of routine. We get a little rattled when we don't have that. And it happens with kids too. Now, kids don't understand that it's because their routine is screwed up, but we can see it if we're paying attention. We can see where kids, they get rattled or they get overstimulated or extra if their routine is jacked up, right? So we all thrive on some sort of routine. And it doesn't have to be rigid, but boundaries still matter when it comes to summer break, whether it's for adults or kids. A sleep schedule still matters. Regular meals matter. Downtime because there is such a thing as too much fun. Just like there is for adults. So does any of this sound familiar? What I mean by this is getting outside and moving and getting sunshine and fresh air and less screen time. Walking, swimming, gardening, yard work, playing, all of those count for nervous system resets for both kids and adults. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's a lot of what we talk about in general for wellness, right? We need to get out. We need to move. We need to get that extra stuff. But we still need those boundaries. We still need those regular things that we can rely on every single day to kind of structure our day a little bit. Otherwise, and this is something that often happens with retirees once they don't have that daily structure anymore. I have a friend who retired a couple years ago, and they really struggle because they don't have that specific thing or place they have to be every single day at a certain time that keeps them regimented. And a lot of times that's what happens with retirees if they don't get involved in something else, is that they just kind of bump around all day. Can't think of the right word to say it, but you know what I mean, where they're just kind of, whatever happens next is what happens, and there's no real schedule. And a lot of times they kind of feel lost when they're like that. So, again, it doesn't have to be rigid, but the boundaries matter, and all those things we talk about for general wellness apply to the kids too. There is a such thing as too much fun. Kids need downtime, adults need downtime, and a perfect example of this is my grandkids. A lot of times when they have specifically my grandson, because he plays flag football, a lot of times when there is a really busy weekend where there's a lot going on, or for example, recently he had a friend spend the night and then that turned into 2 nights. And my daughter was telling me by the middle of the second day, he was just cranky. He's a lot like his mom. He's a lot like his grandmother. We can only do so much around other people before we need time for ourselves. And it's very evident in him, even though he doesn't realize what's going on. It's very evident when we're watching him in action that he can have too much fun, and then he needs that downtime and he needs that break to just kind of reset before the next thing. So a lot of times my daughter will plan things for Saturday so that they have Sunday for downtime. Memorial Day weekend was especially busy, so he didn't get that same level of downtime. So that's just an example of what could happen. We had company all weekend. Your girl's overstimulated. I struggle to get things done because I have serious FOMO. I'm afraid I'm going to miss out on something. And so it takes me a little bit to kind of adjust back to a normal routine when I have company. It's not the company's fault. That's all on me. But at least I'm aware that that's happening. And I know what I need to do to kind of straighten myself out. So again, structure still matters. Even if it's summer, even if everything's all willy-nilly, a little bit of structure is still really good, especially when the kids are younger. And it's important to do all those things that we talk about all the time for wellness to kind of keep us in line. All right, so here's some myths regarding summer break and regarding kids in general, that we have to avoid boredom. There's 2 major myths here that really get my attention. We have to avoid boredom. I have seen a couple of articles about boredom lately, and this is kind of important. Boredom, words are hard. Boredom is not an emergency, y'all. It actually helps to build essential life skills for creativity, because kids have to come up with their own stimulation and discover their own likes and dislikes, plan and organize their own activities, and problem solve. And neuroscience even shows that boredom helps our brains to consolidate past experiences and learn from our environment. So there's this Psychology Today article that talks about the fact that entertaining children is actually a relatively new parenting ideal that increases stress on parents quite a bit. And she talks about this person that wrote the article, I guess she or he, talks about the fact that they don't remember that either of their parents played their games with them. And by games, I mean things like building with Legos and things like that. Our family, she says, our family played games we all liked, but it was not a child-focused activity. It was a family game night. That's a big difference, right? Her parents bought blocks, and the kids played with the blocks in the living room while the parents cleaned or cooked or mowed the lawn. Whereas her and her husband sat on the floor and built kaboom towers with their sons. And she said, my kids weren't bored, but my husband and I kind of were. And allowing them to play by themselves probably would have taught them something very different than structured play that was led by the parents. The parents, she says, they were always, as parents, structuring an activity to make sure the kids were challenged, engaged. But one of the things the kids didn't learn was how to entertain themselves. And listen, none of my parents never sat down on the floor and played Barbies with me. I can pretty much guarantee you that. They had adult things to do. And it was up to me to use my imagination and find ways to ease my own boredom. But one thing I was never really allowed to talk about was that I was bored. That was basically the response was, go find something to do, go outside. And that's not something, until I started coming across these articles a few weeks ago about kids and boredom, I really didn't think about it, but we spend a lot of time. When my grandson's here, I feel the need to entertain him the whole time he's here. When my granddaughter's here, I'm like, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do with the kids? All of it. And I don't think that's, I have to agree with this article that is a relatively new phenomenon. So we need to try to make sure that we allow the kids the freedom to be bored. And I know, there's all kinds of things out there. Idle minds are the devil's hands. There's all kinds of old proverbs and sayings that I don't even know if they actually came from where we think they came from. But at the same time, how do kids ever learn how to plan and organize and do any of that kind of stuff if they don't have the opportunity to be bored and try to find a way to solve that problem? Because it is a huge problem-solving thing, right? So the other big myth surrounding summer is that summer is the time to go all out. And I suppose if you're a parent who's off during the summer, so you're trying to cram all the things into that time, that makes sense. I know I still try to do that, not kid-related, adult-related. I still try to do that in my breaks in between school terms. I'm trying to cram in all the stuff I can't get to when I'm in a school term. So it kind of looks like a mini summer break where I'm trying to go all out all the time. One of the things that I find when I do that is that I don't end up taking downtime. Sometimes I just need a day to rattle around the house on my own schedule, not on somebody else's timeline, to just kind of do whatever comes to mind. And I don't always leave myself that time when I'm on school breaks because I'm too busy trying to cram all the other stuff I don't get to the rest of the time. And that's kind of where that summer going all out kind of starts. It doesn't have to be fancy. Summer does not have to be fancy. In fact, most of the time, it won't be expensive vacations or camps that your child remembers. It's going to be some small thing that you don't even think about, maybe even feel guilty about, because you're doing this instead of something big, that your kids remember. A family story just came up the other night, a week or so ago, about tuna helper. So when my daughter was little, I was not the cook that I am now, and that is her words. So I appreciate that. And it was just because I was a scared cook. So I was afraid to cook things that there was a possibility of undercooking or might make somebody sick. I lived in a lot of fear, as you all know. I've shared that with you before, and that extended to cooking. I felt very inadequate in the kitchen and was very terrified of making people sick or cooking things wrong, doing things wrong. So my daughter really liked tuna helper cheesy noodles. So did I. It was probably a bit healthier back then than it is now. So we had that a lot, more than we probably should have. Maybe like once a week, once every couple of weeks, okay? But we always did it as a yellow meal. It was her favorite meal. It was the tuna helper cheesy noodle and corn. We ate a lot of corn back then. Corn's not my friend. Not something I eat a lot of anymore. In any case, so I'm going somewhere with this. Just bear with me for a minute. So I would always put it on her yellow plate, and I think we had a yellow cup, and that's what we would eat for dinner. Probably, like I said, at least once a week, maybe twice a week. We just really, really liked it. And we smothered it in Mrs. Dash table blend, and it was just awesome. I actually still like tuna helper. I just don't buy it. In any case, so what happened was my grandson asked for this particular meal, but didn't know the name of it. So he was trying to describe it as something, that they put this specific spice on. And it took her a few minutes, but she figured out he was talking about the tuna helper. And he was so stinking excited to have the tuna helper. One, because she recognizes that it's not the healthiest thing, so they don't do it that often. And two, because he remembers the story about it being mommy's favorite meal and the time that Nana decided to be cute, that's me, and put yellow food coloring in the milk so that the whole meal was yellow, not just the tuna helper and the corn and the plate, so that the whole meal was yellow. And then mommy flat out refused to drink it because the milk looked like pee. So it's kind of become a funny family history story. But the whole point of this was that my daughter was feeling a little bit guilty about making tuna helper because it's not the healthiest choice. And my grandson was so super stinking excited to have this meal because he loves it and he thinks it's great. But we also are fairly certain that part of it is his association with this funny family story about how it was mommy's favorite meal and what Nana did to try to make it more interesting that was a complete fail. So the point here is that a lot of times we spend time and a lot of energy and sometimes a lot of money trying to do these big, grand things like birthday parties and big vacations and big extravagant things for our kids during the summer. And the truth of the matter is 90% of the time, those are not going to be the things that stick with them. It's going to be those little quirky moments that turn into a funny family story, or that were just unplanned, intentional time with mom or dad or with each other or whatever. And those will be these big things. They're not going to be what sticks long term, especially if you have younger kids. It's going to be the fact that you left time and space for complete randomness. Whether it was for yourself, with you and your significant other, with your kids, whatever, those tend to be the things that stick. And that's really important to remember when we get stuck in this myth that summer has to be all out, extravagant, a 3-month-long party, whatever the case may be. So also we need to remember that adults need rest too. I almost said adults need naps too, which is not entirely untrue. Adults need rest too. Just like I spoke about needing to rattle around sometimes in my own house for the day, not on somebody else's timeline. We need naps. We need vacations. We need staycations. We need unplugging. It's okay to read outside. It's okay to say no to everything because we can't do all the things. Again, I find it very relaxing to get in the pool and float around for maybe 30 minutes, an hour, a couple times a week. I'm very relaxed by the water, and I don't actually get out on the water a lot. You guys, we have those little flies, those little flies that haunt Florida houses during this time of year. So that's what I keep. I'm not seeing things, I promise. In any case, we need that downtime too. So especially in the summer when the kids are home more, we're spending more time with them and we're trying to do all the things. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to call grandma. It's okay to swap child care for the day with a friend or a family member. And it's okay to ask for support. And frankly, parents weren't meant to do all of this alone, and neither were any of us. None of us were meant to do these things alone. So it's important to ask for help and to take breaks when we need them, right? I don't know what's going on in my house. That's very strange. All right. Well, we're going to try to ignore that for a hot second while I finish this up. I think that power went out, y'all. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. Moving on. Anyway, it's okay to ask for help. That's strange things going on. Told you it was a weird morning. So again, it's okay to ask for help. In anything, it's okay to ask for help if we need it, okay? Kind of like when we talked about feeding the brain, feeding the body, feeding the heart and soul. Summer can be an opportunity for us to recover regardless of our age, for us to reconnect regardless of our age, reset, play regardless of our age, and breathe just a little bit. So my challenge to you, as I wrap this up, my challenge to you is, what says summer to you now as an adult? What says summer to you? And I want you to do one thing this week that feels like summer, something that's not productive, not for social media, and not because you should, but just something that screams summer to you, that feels like summer. I want you to do one thing like that this week. Drop it in the comments, send me a message, let me know what that is, what that did for you. I'm looking forward to hearing how you describe what makes you think is summer. For me, it's still a lot of things that are associated with my childhood. So, you may find the same, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to hearing about those things and what you did this week, that felt like summer. And in the meantime, between now and next week, while you're doing that, remember these things. We all need seasons of rest and recovery. Summer break is not just for kids. It's okay for us to take a summer break. even if we don't feel like we can. It can be a weekend. It can be a week, whatever, a day. A summer break is what you make of it. And boredom is not failure. Remember that. Boredom is not failure. Simple moments matter more than you think. But let the kids, or even let yourself, find something to do that isn't in the norm. That gets your brain, it challenges your brain, it feeds your brain. Sweated my butt off. Okay, something more fun than that, Kayla. Sweating is not fun. And then remember that you don't have to burn out to earn the rest that comes with a summer break, okay? So if you found this helpful, please share. If you are embracing the transition of summer break because you have kids, grandkids, whatever, that changed the scope of the way the next couple of months will look as school lets out, then I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have amazing, simple moments of enjoyment. And just remember to give everybody grace while they all make this transition into summer break. That's teachers, parents, grandparents, kids, everybody. Just give yourselves and give everybody else a little bit of grace. And until next week, be well.